A new analysis by Catholic Vote revealing there's been at least 400 attacks on Catholic churches since 2020. They include fires, statue beheadings, vandalism, and more. And only 25% of those cases have seen an arrest. Here to discuss is Director of Catholic Vote's Accountability Project, Tommy Valentine. Tommy, thanks for being here. First of all, can you put this in context? I know there was a even sharper increase after the Roe v. Wade decision, but since 2020, has there been is this a rapid increase for Catholics? Or there's always been targeting. How much of an increase is it?
Good morning, Pete. Yeah,
Good morning.
This really started in the summer of 2020 when we saw civil unrest across the whole country, and Catholic churches were caught up in that. The difference is that while the unrest died down in 2020, the attacks on Catholic churches continued and even accelerated into 2021. What changed in 2022 was the leak of the Supreme Court's draft decision in the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And the Catholic Church has always stood stalwart against abortion for decades, centuries. And the pro-abortion extremists who attacked pregnancy centers and churches knew this. And so the Catholic Church was one of their top targets. And we've seen over 200 attacks just in the past 2 years since that decision came down. And there's another interesting angle there, which is that a number of states have voted on abortion ballot measures in Ohio, Kansas, and Michigan. And in the run-up to those elections, we saw a dramatic surge in attacks in each of those states on Catholic churches, many of which had signs opposing those ballot measures to legalize abortion. And so that really qualifies as voter intimidation and voter suppression, right? Because they're trying to intimidate Catholics from speaking their voices and trying to influence an election. In 2024, we're going to have up to 12 states that are voting on abortion-related ballot measures. And if our churches are not being secured, we can expect more attacks against Catholic churches. And that's why we've called on the Biden administration to take action. Unfortunately, we've not seen a single federal prosecution of any of these attacks, even though they are illegal under federal law.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. We know what they're focusing on. It's certainly not people of faith. But still, 25% of these instances have an arrest. That means the people that are doing it are still out there. The threat remains.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note that that's not because of lack of diligence or effort on the part of local law enforcement, right? I've talked with some of the pastors whose churches have been attacked who have said that local law enforcement was very diligent, worked hard, but they're just overstretched and they really don't have the resources to combat a nationwide epidemic of violence. It's not hard to imagine that if some other religious group was under attack, the Biden administration could be in a task force immediately to try to figure out what was going on. But for some reason, when it comes to Catholics, there just has been no assistance from the federal government. And we're calling on that to change because the Department of Justice has the resources. The FBI has the resources to go after some of these groups because a lot of it is centrally organized by groups like Jane's Revenge, Ruth Sent Us. It needs to stop. And the federal government needs to give the resources that local law enforcement needs.
You're exactly right. If it was certain faiths or certain identity groups, there would be task force upon task force to get to the bottom of this. It would be a main portion of the State of the Union address, yet it gets no mention because it's Catholics and pro-lifers in this instance. Tommy Valentine, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.